Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into the chaotic, high stakes, and frankly, very messy transition of artificial intelligence. You see, AI is moving out of the lab and becoming this active force in our world, and it's kicking off some major battles over money, security, and yeah, even its very soul.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get into this massive shift that's happening right now with what's called agentic AI. Then we'll look at the absolute gold rush it's sparking in the business world and the trillion-dollar price tag that's got Wall Street on edge. From there, we'll explore the deep philosophical fights over how AI should be controlled. And finally, we'll bring it all home and talk about what this means for your job, the information you see, and your safety.
All right, first things first, we have to set the stage because the fundamental nature of what AI can actually do, well, it's changing as we speak.
Just let that sink in for a second. That is an incredibly bold statement. The CEO of Anthropic, one of the top AI labs on the planet, isn't talking about some distant sci-fi future. He's saying that AI with general intelligence is basically just around the corner, and that raises the stakes for everything else we're about to talk about.
So here's the crucial point. We are moving way beyond the chatbot. Agentic AI doesn't just talk about doing a task, it can actually perform it. It can use your software, it can browse the web, it can execute these complex workflows all on its own. It's not just a tool anymore, it's more like a teammate.
And this new power to act has kicked off an absolute gold rush in the business world. But as companies race to bring on these new digital teammates, they're finding out that the reality of it all is, well, it's incredibly messy. And the scale of the promised return on investment here is just staggering. We're not talking about small tweaks. I mean, look at ServiceNow. They gave a coaching tool to their employees and cut the prep time for some sales tasks by 95%. These are absolutely transformative numbers. Yeah, but there's always a flip side, right? The incredible speed of this rollout is creating a whole new class of risks. The very things that make these agents so powerful, their autonomy, their access to tools, also happen to make them incredibly vulnerable. And this slide really just lays it all out, highlighting some of the new top risks for these autonomous agents. All of a sudden, you have to worry about an attacker tricking your AI into doing their bidding, or discovering your own employees have created thousands of unsanctioned shadow AI agents that have access to your company network.
So security isn't just about filtering bad words or blocking a sketchy link anymore. Now it's about monitoring an agent's intent. You have to ask a totally new question. Did it do what it was supposed to do, or did it go completely rogue? It's a fundamentally new kind of challenge.
Okay, let's follow the money, because powering this revolution requires an almost unbelievable amount of capital, and Wall Street is starting to get really nervous about the final bill. To put this number in perspective for you, Microsoft spent more on data centers and computer chips in just 3 months than the annual GDP of a country like Bolivia or Paraguay. And get this, despite having huge profits, the spending was so high their stock actually dropped. And if you think that's a lot, hold on. Meta is planning to spend even more. Mark Zuckerberg is making a massive all-in bet on building a future of what he's calling personal superintelligence. And, well, that's going to require a staggering amount of hardware. I mean, these numbers represent an infrastructure build-out that we really haven't seen since the dawn of the internet. But investors are getting impatient. They're punishing stocks, and they're demanding to see a clear, profitable return on this massive, unprecedented spending spree. Because this isn't just about building data centers. It's about funding a very specific and very, very expensive vision of the future. And underneath all that financial frenzy, there is a much deeper battle raging. It's a battle over the core philosophy of AI. How should we build it? Who gets to control it? And what values should it even have? And you really couldn't find two more different approaches. On one side, you have a company like Anthropic, so focused on safety, it literally developed an 80-page SOL document to guide its AI. They believe that without extreme caution, these systems could be an existential risk. And on the other side, you have xAI, which is facing a massive lawsuit alleging its model generated millions of non-consensual deepfakes. Their philosophy seems to be prioritizing uncensored output, even if that means abandoning industry safeguards. It is a dramatic and pretty controversial clash of ideologies. This same kind of conflict is playing out in business strategy, and this is where all that massive spending we talked about really comes in. You have Google using its sheer scale to make AI a cheap, everyday utility,
bundling it into products for hundreds of millions of people to try and achieve total market dominance. Meanwhile, platforms like Hugging Face are fighting to keep the whole ecosystem independent, even reportedly turning down a $500 million deal from Nvidia. Their goal is to stop any single powerful player from controlling the future of AI. It's a stark choice between a centralized, corporate-owned future and a decentralized, open one.
So, okay, we've got these high-level corporate battles and these deep philosophical divides. Why should you care? Well, because the outcomes of these fights are reshaping our daily lives in very real, tangible ways, from our jobs to the information we trust.
Let's break it down into 3 areas that affect pretty much all of us: our jobs, the very information we consume, and finally, our personal safety in this new landscape.
So you know that traditional pyramid structure in most companies? Well, according to analysis from PwC, AI is basically turning it into a diamond. AI agents are taking on more and more of the routine, entry-level work at the bottom. This means there might be fewer repetitive roles, but there's a growing demand for people who can act as AI-literate generalists, managers who can orchestrate all these new agentic workflows.
The challenge to what's real is just escalating. In one wild case, an AI-generated blog post completely invented the Weldborough Hot Springs in Tasmania, even creating fake images, and it sent actual tourists on a wild goose chase for a place that doesn't exist. At the same time, you've got to decide how much of your personal data, like everything in your Gmail, you're willing to give an AI in exchange for a more convenient, personalized world.
And this isn't some theoretical threat in the future. It's happening right now. Security researchers uncovered a real criminal operation that was systematically hacking into AI systems and then selling access to them on the dark web. This is forcing a massive shift to what experts call zero-trust governance, where we basically can't assume any digital person or piece of content is legitimate until it's been verified. And that really is the central question of AI's messy, chaotic adolescence. As these systems get more capable and more autonomous, the struggle over who controls them, what their values are, and what their ultimate impact will be, well, that's the struggle that is going to define our future.